bookworms, to Dresden. My name is Whitney, and we are reading Summer Night by Jim Butcher. This is the fourth book in the Dresden File series, and I heard once you hit the third book, the series gets really good, and I have to agree. This just after reading the first half, this one is my favorite so far. Kind of going backwards in order, this one's my favorite, then Grave Peril, then Full Moon, and then Stormfront is in last place. But yeah, it just seems to be getting better and better. I'm going to discuss my thoughts on this in just a second. Before I do, I just want to remind everybody we are done with The Ring by Danielle Steel. Very sad about that. My final set of discussion questions will be out on Monday, and then my final thoughts should be up sometime this week. And then don't forget to head over to my website on the 30th, and that way you can participate in the final set of discussion questions, which covers the whole book. They are different from the weekly discussion questions. If you didn't read this with us, I strongly encourage you to do so. Definitely check out my final thoughts if you want to know more about it. But really, really good and not what you would expect. Just reading the synopsis or from the cover, or just assuming that Danielle Steel is just a romance novelist. So really, really good. Strongly encourage you to pick this up. And then, of course, this coming week we will be starting Obsidian Butterfly by Laurel K. Hamilton. This is our book of the month for November. The breakdown of the chapter sets are down below, as well as links where you can pick up a copy of this. We also do a weekly read every Wednesday. Right now we're doing some spooky thriller type reads. And then we also do a Throwback Thursday where we cover different children's books. And then bonus videos pop up here and there. So if you're not already, please subscribe, hit the bell notification, and while you're at it, give this video a like. It really helps grow the channel. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Summer Night. So we read the first half of this book, chapters 1 through 16. This week we will finish it up. I think it's chapters 17 through 34, I want to say. But yeah, the first half of the book, already amazing. I will say, being the fourth book in, the only thing I'm kind of getting frustrated is the first couple chapters is a lot of repetition. He puts a lot of the same information that you learned about in the previous books, like soul gazes and the fact that technology doesn't work around wizards and things like that, which I understand why, because obviously a lot of these books you can read as standalones. You will miss out a little bit if you didn't read the whole series because he does reference back, but he references back in such a way that you still kind of get an idea of what's going on. You just won't have the story verse as well built for you if you didn't read the whole series. So I do understand why he does that, but it's just kind of getting repetitive at this point. And he kind of talks about it in the same way every time. Instead of making a little different. I hope the further along in the series we get, the less that will be apparent, but I'm sure it still will be because a lot of these can be read as standalones. But past that, like, absolutely love this. This one, like I said, is my favorite. This one is a little less action packed than the previous three. And if you saw my thoughts as we read Grave Peril, I had mentioned that the action scenes, there was a little bit more of a gap in between and they were kind of built up a little bit more versus just, constant nonstop action like in the first couple of books. And so, yeah, I really, really appreciated this one, that the action scenes are a little less intense. And again, there's more depth to them, which I think really helps the story. I personally like that depth. Like, I enjoyed just the action. Don't get me wrong; it was very entertaining. But I think I mentioned before I had read. Knowing now, I don't think I ever read this one, but I had read the first three books, and I didn't remember them at all. I didn't remember what happened. I think it was just because it's like a fun movie that doesn't have any depth to it. Like, yeah, it's enjoyable to watch it, but you're not necessarily gonna retain anything from it because it's just all action, and no substance. And that's kind of how I feel about like the first couple books, where now we're really getting more into it. There's more depth to the scenes. and they're not even necessarily action anymore, but they are like tense, and there's a certain level of action to them as well. And he does paint a really, really good picture. Like it's very vivid, but like I said, I do appreciate that now we're getting some more of that substance versus just nonstop action. In this book, it's so far it's basically the premise is there's kind of a political war between he calls them fairies, but they don't like being called fairies, and I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Sidhe. Um, is what they call themselves, and there's a summer court and a winter court, and they kind of keep the balance in the world. And it starts off with toads raining from the sky, which I love. We see the return of Billy the werewolf, which again I love that these characters um, are kind of built up and then in place throughout. And so we see Billy return, which Billy's funny. Like I didn't necessarily get a good sense of him in Full Moon, but this time we kind of see a little bit more of his personality now that like it's just him and Harry one on one, which is a lot of fun. And it talks more a little bit more, just in reference at this point. I don't know if it will go into more detail on her or not, but his godmother, it talks a little bit more about her. Like I said, just in reference, there's a situation that happens that's because of her. So that's pretty fun, and he's just having to figure this out. We see the actual White Council, they're not just referenced anymore. There's a meeting, and so we see some of the characters from the White Council, friends, a mentor of Harry, Ebenezer. He is pretty entertaining. And then some other characters as well, and ones that hate Harry and ones that are kind of on his side. There's one, um, listens to Wind, I want to say is his name. I really like that character, and he tells Harry that Tara says hi, so there's a connection to Tara from Full Moon, which is great. We see Toot Toot the fairy return, and he was in the very first book, Stormfront, and so I really like Toot Toot. I think just the way the actual fairies are described, and even the non fairy, the I don't know how to pronounce it, the Sidhe, the seed Sahid. I don't know how to pronounce it. Just ignore me. But even them, like, they're terrifying. And then you have these little funny fairies that are just really enjoyable. And so we see that, and then we have some new characters as well. So basically, the premise for this case is Harry has to he kind of gets coerced by the Winter Queen, to help prove he's the emissary for her to help prove that she didn't kill this artist who turns out to be the Summer Knight. And so there's the Winter Court and the Summer Court, and they each have a knight that's mortal. And so the Summer's Fairy's knight is the one that got killed, and so it's going to cause a big war, and then it's going to throw off the whole world, because you have winter season and they need to be balanced, and so it's going to throw off everything if they're not in balance. And so he has to be emissary for winter because he really doesn't have a choice. And that ties into the whole thing with the White Council, which they're kind of up in arms because of the war with the vampires, which ties in to the last book we read. So it's all kind of tying with all three previous books, which I love. And like I said, there's a lot more depth to this, versus just full on, um, nonstop action. And yeah, really enjoyable so far. I can't wait to see kind of how things unfold going forward. There's some new characters, some people that were kind of under the protection of the Summer Night, and so now they're kind of left floundering. And so we see them in the picture now. And again, I think they're one of the characters that might show up later on, kind of like Billy and such, but they're also kind of more just specific to this story as well. And we also see a return of somebody who has been referenced, I'm not going to say any more than that. We haven't met them yet, but they come into play and kind of surprise Harry, and it ends up causing an issue. And that's all I'm going to say. If you're not reading along with us, you definitely should. And so I'm excited to learn more about this character and then also see how this gets all tangled, and what's going to happen going forward. And actually, with this character I'm referencing, the way I did the chapter sets, it kind of left it on a cliffhanger with this specific character. So I'm definitely excited to jump in and finish the story and see what's happening with the character and with Harry and everything like that. So let me know if you're reading along or if you've read this book, your thoughts, especially on the first half of the book. And no spoilers, but if the second half gets better or what your expectations of the second half are, I'm gonna go ahead and leave you here. But absolutely enjoying this one. Definitely pick up a copy. Again, links are down in the description below. And then don't forget, we are starting our new book of the month, Obsidian Butterfly by Laurel K. Hamilton. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.